make a big noise playing in the street. Gonna be a big man someday. You got mud on your face, you big disgrace. Kicking your can all over the place, singing, "We will."
America's first competition talk show. You're in the hub.
Tea? Just half a cup if you don't mind. Come, my dear. Don't you care for tea?
Why, yes, I'm very fond of tea.
If you don't care for tea, you could at least make polite conversation.
Well, I've been trying to ask you.
I have an excellent idea. Let's change the subject.
Welcome to the Hub Internet Show. I'm your host, Joel Aaron, sharing tea time with my friend Rich, a Frederick Douglass Republican, and Whitney, who are on the show all week long. And you know, it's kind of interesting because a man in Europe, in England earlier this week, died of a caffeine overdose. We found out earlier this week that specifically 65 members of the United States House of Representatives and probably 7 or 8 Senate members died of a tea overdose. And we are here to thumb it in the eye. I had an itch. Anyway, the feeling here is, looking back in retrospect, on quite frankly the most overwhelming election, shift of power in Washington D.C. in close to a century. That there is there is brand new emphasis placed on the Tea Party movement, and everybody's going to be talking about this. But guys, how much do you think this movement really impacted Tuesday night's election? Or do you think a lot of this just would have happened by folks reading the tea leaves with or without the movement, just following what was happening with the spending racking up? Rich?
I think this was a transformational night.
Mm-hmm.
It's been something that's been brewing for a long time, and finally it came to full brew.
Yeah. How do you like your tea?
I like my tea black.
Scalding.
And sweet.
Black, sweet. I like it bitter. And that's how I felt. Whitney, what do you think?
I think it's hard to tell which drove which. I don't know if it was the Tea Party movement or the fact that the current administration behaved the way it did, which forced people to vote the way they did, or actually persuaded people to vote the way they did.
Sure.
I don't know which it was.
I'll drink to that. Rich, so, the thing here is, does Obama change course here? I mean, because everybody's been talking about this is a referendum on the economy. This is a referendum on where things are heading. Do you think he changes course, or is he way too much of a Fabian socialist ever to see beyond his ideology?
I would think so. I mean, if we were using the football analogy, I mean, he's at halftime. He's been trying to go long, and his receivers have been dropping the ball. So if he's got any kind of a sense, he'd go back in, regroup, and try to slow it down and stop going for the big gun and maybe try to make a couple little 3-yard, 4-yard gains and just try to get a first down. Right now, I don't know. He may have gotten the message, but I'm still not too confident that it sunk in because there was no capitulation in his speech today. He was still trying to say, yeah, we lost some seats, but we're going to drive on.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that kills me, and the verdict is really out because I mean you've got the new, obviously the soon to be House Majority Leader or House Speaker, John Boehner, giving his speech last night, saying the American people spoke loudly and clearly. They want it to stop. They want a change of course. We need cuts. Okay. Every politician trying to win over the American people, because after all, we've always been center right. We've never really flipped on that. Has said we need cuts. But specifically, what are we talking about? Because we've had our tax cuts over the years. We haven't had spending cuts out of Washington, D.C. since Calvin Coolidge. I mean, it's been nearly a century. And do you really see? Are they going to muscle up and try to put that kind of a thing forth now, Whitney? I mean, are they going to do both? Are they going to get both sides of the equation right?
I doubt it. I kind of feel like Obama's first and hopefully only term was more of a kamikaze mission where he has an objective, and obviously I think he's made it clear that the will of the American people is not what he cares about. He got into office, and now he's going to push forward with the agenda that he has always had, whatever that may be. And it doesn't matter what kind of damage it does to this country or the constitutional values that we've always had.
Okay, well, I've got this theory that the Democrats lost so many seats this week because the buses they would normally use to get people to the polls had all been chartered by Huffington Post to get people to the Colbert-Stewart rally on Saturday, and they just hadn't made it back yet. So there was really no way to get those disenfranchised voters out in time to send the referendum back,
or they
kick it back,
or they could have been some really good greenies inside that we had enough carbon emissions emitted during that Saturday event that we can't run the risk of putting some more carbon in the air on Tuesday and just walk to the polls.
A little bit of hot air there,
could be.
I mean, it's just like they had good music though. They did have some good music, but they did. I mean, did you see any of the signs? Did you see any of the rally, the Saturday rally? They had some signs.
I couldn't bear to watch it.
Okay, they had some signs out. I'll just try some of these out. Communism was a red herring. Yeah.
Was, as if it doesn't exist in real life. Like, no country actually exists under a communist reign.
Yeah, because, and I guess, I mean, that makes sense because using the logic, I guess the fall of the Berlin Wall was a farce too, because after all, an oral contract isn't really worth the paper it's written on, right? Right, Rich?
It all depends on who's doing the contract.
That's true. This be true. And the signs, to me, were hysterical because, I mean, I'm like you. I mean, like, okay. They also had the Nazi thing. They connected the dots on the Nazi thing, the Tea Party Nazis. They had Hitler mustaches on Palin and who was it? Eric Cantor, Glenn Beck, and John Boehner. And I think that makes all the sense in the world because the movement about individual liberty is socialistic. I'd give my right arm to be ambidextrous. It makes about as much sense. But, they seem to be going either way. Either that or they don't know what Nazism is and socialism is.
Well, I think
imagine.
They're twisted.
Winnie?
I think I read in the article that there was the smell of marijuana smoke in the air.
Yeah.
So maybe that was part of it. Maybe it was just, everybody got really high.
That's the thing. Sign parties happen before the event. You don't have your sign making party at the event when you're drunk off your arse and you're high.
Well, let's be honest. If you're getting high at the event, you were probably getting high on your way to the event.
Your pre-drinking was happening. Yeah. I'm sure everybody had a designated driver. Rich or took the train. I mean, none of the rally attendees. The DNC had this phone bank system sent up because they were going to capitalize on the fact that there were well over 24 million people on the National Mall and counting, give or take 23 and 3/4 million people. But they were going to take advantage of this and have a phone bank in D.C. They polled the attendees. Not one person actually took part in the phone bank. And to me, this is funny because they work so hard. Progressives have worked so hard to instill a sense of moral relativism in all of us. And so it's really biting them in the ass now when you try to think, it's hard to get us to have moral indignation when you told us there's nothing worth having moral indignation over. I mean, is that part of the problem here? The left just doesn't have the gumption, or what?
I think the left is just a bunch of hypocrites. I mean, to use your previous comment about the Hitler mustaches and all that kind of thing. I mean, these are people who just a few short weeks ago were vilifying or, trying to vilify the Tea Party movement for doing the similar things. But it was their plants who were in there at our rallies doing this. They don't get it. They make up the rules as they go. And unfortunately for them, they've lost. So suck it up.
Yeah. Suck it up and hope for 2 years. Do we hold this up for 2 years? Do the American people understand enough about the process to know full well all we're going to hear is party of no, party of no, party of no for 2 more years and still have the resolve to come out and say we've got to get the proper structure in place to actually repeal some of this stuff and cut taxes and spending? Because realistically, I don't see any of this happening before 2012 if we can get a conservative executive. Do you think we have that much stamina?
Well, I don't think it needs to last as intense as it has been over the past few months, that it can die off for a little bit, give everybody a break, and then ramp back up in 2012. Yeah. I think that a lot of change will happen even so. Without an executive that is a Republican, we can have some changes just from the shift in the House and the Senate. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can all hope for the best because we do have short-term memory loss in this country. And Karl Marx didn't quite have it right. Religion is not the opiate of the masses. Entertainment is. Here's to you. Tea time. We'll see you tomorrow on Hub.